technology is a tool to facilitate connection. So it's kind of mind-boggling to me how many people I have as fans or followers. Like if I add it up, be like, wow, our network is massive. I know what it takes to build business, and it's not easy. The easy part is to just to keep trudging along, miserable at your job. But it all starts with the thoughts and the ideas and getting your ideas down into something, and I call them stories that light you up. That's what Relaunch U is all about.
Are you at a point in your career where you are seeking more clarity? You'll know if you're in this point because you're probably not engaged with your work, or you're disengaged completely. You're maybe even quitting from what you do. Probably looking for some fulfillment. And actually, wouldn't it be great if you could get paid for the work that you love? Well, my guest today is Greg Monaco. He is a specialist in career change, particularly around personal branding and telling your story, packaging you so that you can magnetize work to you. And that would be work that you could get paid for. He spent 3 decades with some of the largest organizations in the United States, but those companies are big enough that they would be largest enough globally. And now he's packaged up a service with his wonderful Relaunch U product and platform. And we're going to talk about that today. Welcome, Greg Monaco. Pleased to meet you, Greg. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me here. I'm very curious to see where our conversation goes today.
Well, we're going to have as much fun as we can. I'm going to jump straight in. Now we've got a little intro about you, and we're going to give everybody links in the show notes. So if you're watching this now and you already want to find Greg, go and check him out. All the links are down below in the YouTube show notes, but you'll also see these in other platforms too. So I read about you and some of your content that 70% of jobs that are available are not publicly listed. And it made me think, what? Why is that? And what can somebody do about that? So I thought, let's ask the man himself. Yeah, I know you're talking about it. So what do people do?
Well, I don't know why that is. It's surprising to me as well when I found that stat. And it points to the fact that you really need to understand how to network and how to build relationships with people. And I think that's since, the days of early business where people were just tradesmen, it's all about connecting and creating with other people. And I think we lose that a bit, and we rely on our tech to do the work for us. And it always comes down to a conversation. So how can we position ourselves and become better at telling our own story and helping people land the story and helping people understand who you are and what you're all about. Yeah, I'm surprised about that stat as well, James.
It's like there's a divide really between relationships and technology. And I read about this yesterday from somebody else was talking about it in leadership, is that some leaders are wrestling with, they've got too immersed in the technology. And so they've disconnected themselves from their teams. So when you're talking about relationships and networking, let me ask you this, and I get opinions on this from all kinds of different executives and business owners, people who are coaching. What are your kind of 2 or 3 go-tos about relationship building? Maybe the things that maybe are contrarian, or maybe that you're thinking, yeah, people get this wrong. What are they doing they're messing it up? What's that?
Well, they're coming at the conversation from what they want out of the conversation. And that to me, it's a natural. If you look at any LinkedIn profile, just go to the About section and you'll see that most folks will write about all of the experiences and skills and accolades that they've gotten. And as I'm sure you're aware, because you help people in this capacity as well, I mean, that's just not a way to connect to somebody. You ever go to a cocktail party and all they're doing is talking about themselves? It's not a fun conversation. I think what really goes missing is creating the relatedness, just being curious about who you're having a conversation with. You're very good at this, James, and we've only spoken a couple of times, but I can tell you're an individual who really values understanding who you're having a conversation with. You have to get to that root of understanding. And if you're not there, forget it. What you're saying is just going to bounce right off their ears. It won't. Yeah. You won't have any. You won't be creating any value for them.
I like that. I'm thinking of John Maxwell now as you talk about that. He talks about the lowest common denominator in leadership is assumption. That about me section of LinkedIn or talking about your knowledge and experience like it has some value means that you're assuming that the person you're talking to actually cares about that stuff. And they may not. And I like Robert Cialdini writes in his book Influence and Persuasion. He talks about rapport is you showing a genuine interest and having an empathy with the audience you're talking with. So if you're making an assumption that they know what you want to talk about, you're kind of miles away from what leadership actually is. So it's listen and learn and lead, as John would say. I like that. Yeah. And I do think people are scared of the word networking. Do you think people are scared of networking?
Yeah. Yeah. Networking equals awkwardness. And it doesn't, and it needn't be. It's a necessary aspect of building business is creating relationships. But if you just look at it as like, hey, you get to meet new friends. Actually, I'm facilitating a networking Zoom call. And it's all about people in my community, and I bring in people outside of my community to come together in a fun, non-awkward way. So I prompt people. So it's just sort of a nice, just a nice 1 hour where you can make new friends, and I think that's maybe the reframe for networking is like, hey, you get an opportunity to make a new friend.
Yeah. And we met through a contact who's somebody I didn't know. You're actually third degree away from me. So I had a conversation with somebody in my networking group who introduced me to somebody in their networking group who happens to be in your networking group. And that's how we got together. And yeah, a lot of what we do has affinity, and helping people in that way is, hey, wouldn't it be good if you could be valuable to your friend rather, are you treating your business relationships the same way as you treat your friends? It's kind of a good thing, right? So
I would
tell us
say,
about that. Tell us a little bit about your event. How do conversations go? Are there conversation starters? Are there exercises you're going to throw in there? So I think this would be useful for anybody watching is, yeah, I go to networking events and it sucks because I don't know what to say. So
yeah,
yeah, tell us a bit how you facilitate that. I'd love to know.
to get some of the awkwardness off of people, and so people, you're really good at running this podcast, I have to say, because it's a little nerve-wracking knowing that you're going to be on the spotlight for something, and you do a good job of just, hey, connecting. You connected with me before the call, so we had about 10 minutes where we're just connecting, so there's a runway for the conversation. So that's what I do, and I call it the quad, because it's
Ah,
part
that's
of my
right.
community called Relaunch U, which is a university structure. So the quad is where you meet, you gather, and you make new friends. So I hope that I have an approachable enough personality where people are not intimidated in any way by the structure or what I bring, and I usually the story with come to the table with a story, and then I just let people be aware of how this is going to run, and I'm careful to pair people up in a way that I think would be beneficial. So the first time I ran it, I just did sort of like random breakout rooms, which it was okay, but it wasn't optimized. And I'm like, why am I doing that? Why don't I, just do a little research, get curious about the people who are coming, and literally pair them together so there's there's a connection that they could find together. So I think that's part of being a good host is seeing where some of these where the connectivity can happen for people. So I do a series of breakout rooms with folks, and then we come back together and we share what we've learned. And the hour goes like that because,
Of course.
yeah, because and you've made some new friends and you've expanded your network, and at least you have a few new fans and followers as a result.
Yeah. I used to run those calls with 25 people on screen, and an hour would never be enough, especially if you gave people a breakout room or you gave people a platform. And I was always conscious of, I don't want to let anybody down here. So, yeah, I kind of facilitating that is a task in itself. So, kudos to you for taking that on. That's kind of extremely valuable stuff. And I know how difficult it is because I've done that. Let's talk about technology a little bit. And then because the Quad and Relaunch U, they are communities and platforms. So we'll talk a little bit about those. And I want to go there next. But we talked about this kind of divide between relationship and technology and then bridging that potentially. Are there technologies that lend themselves to networking and relationship building better than others? Or are there digital platforms that you would say the most amount of gain for whether it's a personal relationship or a business relationship is made this way? What does that look like? Using technology so people can leverage that.
Well, every platform has its own flavor. LinkedIn is the largest business oriented platform around. So you'll notice that the posts in LinkedIn have a very particular way of being, as opposed to something like X, as opposed to something like Facebook, as opposed to something like Instagram. All of them have their own. And so I would say that technology is, well, I wouldn't just say it. I am saying it, that technology is a tool to facilitate connection. So, it's kind of mind-boggling to me how many people I have as fans or followers. Like if I added up every, I'd be like, wow, our network is massive, more massive than it's ever been, but the quality of the connections isn't there. So it's up to you to create an environment to take advantage of that. So for Relaunch U, it is a private, it's almost like a social media network, but Relaunch U is its own kind of community, and it's run on Mighty Networks, which is, there's a few of them out there. And that to me is a way to create even deeper connections with those who might be fans or followers or enjoy the stuff that I'm putting out there and are benefiting from the stuff that I'm putting out there. So I'm able to stay in touch with the people who I think could benefit from the work that I do and are also voluntarily there. They're paying to be there. So that's one way you can do it. And then just the good old just face to face would be the next level. Nothing is going to substitute that. Hopefully, as you bring people closer and closer to you technologically, you're going to be able to, book more time face to face with people. And I know you're near Dallas, James. So I know when I go visit my brother down in Dallas, we're going to get together for sure.
I will look forward to it. Yeah, it'd be good to connect like that. Yeah, and that's true. And then on top of that, I'll throw in there that what I've done in my business is I didn't create a community in the same way that we're going to talk about Relaunch U, but I did create a methodology of bringing the DFW people together. So we do these intentional dinners, for want of a better phrase, where you marry up people who would have shared interest and could support each other with value in the moment. And I'll facilitate the dinner at the table so we can kind of put people around a table. And that's kind of just an extension, even though the community is dispersed for me. I don't, nationwide, everybody's all over the place. I've even got people in Canada. The chances of all getting together face to face are pretty slim. But now there's over 300 of them. It's like, we're not going to get together easily without a boardroom. You kind of ballroom. Yeah, that's what we need to do. All right, awesome. Well, let's talk about Relaunch U, because I know this has been a long time in the making for you. We talked a little bit about your 3 decades of experience, and a lot of your experience is what's in there now. So you're able to help people with their brand and their story. So tell us, in your own unique way, is it a branding and story conversation first, or do you want to talk about Relaunch U first, or does it all dovetail? How does this work?
I mean, if we were to go chronologically, it's storytelling first. That's where I fell in love with storytelling when I worked at a video store in Tampa, Florida. And because I worked at the video store, I was able to see all kinds of different types of storytelling. And they had an amazing foreign film section that it was called Rent a Movie. This is like a competitor to Blockbuster Video. But I fell in love with storytelling, and particularly in video format. That just translated into me being a corporate storyteller, helping corporations tell their story and connect with people, enroll people in what they're doing, get them charged up so they can become fans and followers. And now the next move for me here is working with individuals. How does that work for individuals? So that's what Relaunch U is built for, is like the same kind of stuff. I mean, stories are stories. The same process applies. I would say this became more evident with an article written by Tom Peters. It's called The Brand of You. This is back in like 1979. He wrote the article, but it's been 40 plus years in the making of people understanding that their own story is vitally important to career longevity and career satisfaction and fulfillment.
I love that. Yeah, and your own storytelling is great. I saw a story you told about your soccer journey, football for those in Europe, and the rest of the world, but soccer for us here in North America, where you were talking about your experiences with Tampa Bay Rowdies and how you didn't make the team because you were a utility player. And it really connects with me, the utility player, because in my sport, I was the utility player. And that isn't always a great thing. But once you specialized and you could tell a story around that, it really gave you great results. So good. So now then, somebody's watching this, they've got to this far. One, they're the right kind of person that we are talking to. So thank you for watching.
Yeah.
But now I want to ask you, when people come to your community to Relaunch U, what is it that they're going through in their lives? What are they experiencing? And what is it that would be characteristic or a trait that would be common about the kind of the membership, so that people understand that's me. Yeah, I should be in there because that's me. What's that?
The people that are in Relaunch U understand that a change is afoot, and you could be at different stages in this change. All I know, that you could be in this part. All I know is that what I'm doing isn't working for me right now. And there's something next, but I'm not quite sure what that is. Then there's folks who are at the next stage, which is I know there's something next, and I'm pretty sure that this is what it is, but I'm not quite sure how to express that. So relaunch, I mean, that's why the name Relaunch U is there. It's like there's a state of change. Something is afoot that you need to pay attention to. There's something in you. Maybe it's been gnawing at you for years, or maybe you've had an idea that's been sitting on the back burner that, you know what, it's high time for that to come to the front burner, because all we have is the time we have right now. And who knows how long that is. So tick-tock, let's get going on something. So the idea behind Relaunch U is how do we accelerate the progress so you can prototype ideas quickly, get products out there, and tell the best story to create the conditions for you to build business so you're doing the work that you love to do.
And so you mentioned there that it's kind of people are ideation and there's innovation in there. Is this for people who are thinking about their entrepreneurial spirit, or do you include drivers and chargers, people who are the old term that even applied to me, go back 10 years, was climb the ladder, climb the ladder. Are those people in there too? Or what's the split? Is there a healthier split towards entrepreneurial spirit? Tell us that.
I would say the split is probably indexes further on the solopreneur. It's the person who is dropping the corporate gig and is, hanging their shingle for the first time. And it's sort of like, oh, I know how to do my job. I just don't know how to build a business out of the job. That's a good, but I have to say, it's really anybody in a career move. If you're climbing the ladder, you need to package yourself up in the optimum way. You need to tell the right story to yourself and to others. You need to be lit up by your own story, because that's how you create magnetism. And I like to say that I help people tell magnetic stories so they can attract the work they love. And so telling magnetic stories isn't just the words on the page or what comes out of your mouth. It's your overall energy. And if anybody has been watching your podcast, James, you radiate energy, radiate positivity and energy. That is a magnetic force that I don't think enough people tap into. But it all starts with the thoughts and the ideas, and getting your ideas down into something, and I call them stories that light you up. Stories that light you up. And I've never really said that before, so I like that. Stories that light you up. That's what Relaunch U is all about.
It's great. And now I want to give people a sense of you. So what's the story? You talked about your experiences in the film industry or the movies. Maybe there's a movie or a story. What's the thing that magnetizes you? Because that's going to help somebody know, oh, Greg likes that. I love that thing. So, and we can maybe draw some dots. So it doesn't have to be one film, but perhaps maybe give a couple of examples if you can think of more than one. But is there a story that gets you charged up, that gets you in your flow state, and you're like, yeah, I love this story because it does this. And then that just you can tie that back into Relaunch U and go, yeah, and we model that. And then if you're an individual coming in, you get to benefit from the experiences of it. So is there something there?
That's a good question. So my influences really do start with filmmaking. I bounced around college, wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. And a friend of mine on the soccer team said to me, hey, you might want to check out the comms department there. They have a new department that they're creating for filmmaking. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. And then I felt like I was kind of cheating because I'm like, wow, I can get a degree and shoot movies. I'm like, I'm in. This is great. So I became obsessed. I would take the cameras out every weekend, travel all over the state, bring my friends, and I'd shoot movies. And if nobody was available, I'd do them by myself. Or if I had one friend, we would create something together. They gave me a key to the editing room, and I could just go in anytime I wanted and use the equipment. I was unstoppable. I just loved it. And if you look at the movies, they're probably terrible student films, but I just enjoyed the craft. I enjoyed telling the stories, and I wasn't sure how that would translate into an actual career. And then I was sending resumes out and doing the things that you're supposed to do after college, and I was getting nothing. I called a guy out of frustration, and I said, "Hey, I don't really know what I'm doing here. I would love to, to just understand, like, how do I?" And he's like, "What do you want to do?" And I'm like, "I'm not sure." And this guy was so generous with me. He said, "You know what? If you like these kinds of things, maybe you might want to try advertising. Why don't you come up?" He lived in Atlanta. "Why don't you come up and stay with me for a week?" And I'm like, I didn't even really know this guy. And I stayed with him for a week. He took me to his agency. I met photographers and filmmakers, and I got to see his life, which was crazy. And I didn't even know that the ad world it was a whole new world he opened up for me of creativity.
Yeah.
And I got the bug. And then I got obsessed. And then I started making contacts. And I met another generous person who took the time to talk to me. And then that turned into a 5-year kind of mentorship. He mentored me for 5 years and taught me the trade. I kind of rambled on there, James. I'm sorry. I don't even know where we started with the question, but I got into telling the story of my how I got into this. But
No,
that's
and
kind of that.
I think you've said enough, because I wanted you to give a personal experience, and I think you've told me that. You used the word obsessed. I love the word obsessed because it's comes from siege, to lay siege, and so you laid siege on the thing that lit you up and got you in that flow state. So you kind of enjoy that, and I think that's key, because I would imagine, let me test this, are people in the community obsessed with the thing that the outcome they're seeking? Is that what happens?
Mm, that's really, I mean, you haven't even seen the community, but I would say each member, I'll tell you one guy in particular. This guy, extraordinary guy. He's a master skydiver. He's jumped out of planes 6,000 times.
Whoa.
And he's created a virtual parachuting simulator, a VR simulator. And his name is Ronnie Hewen. I've known Ronnie for probably close to 20 years now. And when I ran my agency, I had a small branding consultancy in New York City, ran my agency, and we ran an ad for a free logo. We wanted to this is when we first opened our doors. And Ronnie answered the ad, and he was trying to create a vertical wind tunnel in Times Square. You know those tunnels, those wind tunnels where you fly around? So he wanted to create one in Times Square. And we're like, "Oh, this guy's cool. Let's see what he's all about." So we created a logo for him. It was called Body Flight Zone. And the project never came through. Too much red tape. But Ronnie's still at it. 20 years later, he's still at it. And now he has a different expression of the same idea of a virtual parachute simulator. And he just got back from the Olympics in Paris, where he debuted his the parachute flight simulator right there in Olympic Park, right
Wow.
near the Eiffel Tower, which is just amazing to just see. This guy has been on a journey. And we were talking before the call. This is a long game you're playing here.
Yeah.
So who knows where it's going to end up? And Relaunch U is really my obsession right now. I don't know where it's going to end up. I keep tinkering and playing around and moving things around, but it's fun. It's kind of a puzzle.
This is good. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I talk about go all in, ALL, where A is you have an adventure, and we've been talking about that. L is you must love it, so you don't quit. And L is play the long game. So adventure, love it, long game. Yeah, it's so good. Go all in.
I'm going to
What
steal that.
members?
Please.
So let's say we're gonna put the link down below, and I'm gonna ask you for that before we end up here. What what can somebody expect as part of the community? Let's say I do 6, 12 months, 24 months of membership. What would be 2 or 3 things that are guarantees for somebody inside the community?
You're going to have access to all kinds of coursework. So you're going to learn. So what does that mean? It means that I think the way I put it before was stacking the conditions so you can accelerate the path, creating a sustainable, viable business that fulfills you. What does that guarantee? Like, I can't guarantee that any business is going to, 10x. I can't guarantee that. All I can say is that you are going to be in a community of people who are on a similar path who want you to win. And particularly for solopreneurs, the solo is very hard to do it on your own. So you have access to me, and I have built a handful of businesses from nothing. So I know what it takes to build business, and it's not easy. The easy part is to just to keep trudging along, miserable at your job, and making money that way. But money's not your goal. Money is a result of you connecting with people and doing the right things, and that would be the result that you could expect from something like Relaunch U. Is there is a science to the art of it, and the goal for me is to make sure that it's going to be hard, but you have a taste on a regular basis. You have a taste of success, and that success could be, hey, I just got booked on James Hilliard. That's a win.
Yeah.
Or it doesn't necessarily have to be cha-ching cha-ching all the time. So we have these little wins, and these little wins keep adding, and they keep encouraging you, and the universe keeps pushing you, and before you know it, stuff starts to fall into place.
It's so good. Yeah. And then the outcome of which, I love that you said that money is not the outcome. It can be a byproduct, and I coach this, and it sounds like this is the same in the community. Is the goal isn't money. It can't be. What sense does that make? And when I ask people what they want in life, truly what they want, I mean, they very rarely bring up the topic of money. It just doesn't come up. They'll talk about fulfillment and joy and freedom and peace and bliss and contentment and more time with their kids. And I say, you never mentioned money, but you told me when we first met, you want to make a lot of money so you can leave your job. Yeah. I say, can you see the conflict? So I love that you have a place where people can go and understand that that's what it is, that there's an obsession, there's a mission, there's a vision. You can ideate and innovate with the right people who walked on ahead of you. Sounds like what you get. That's really, really cool. What about a case study? You talked about Ronnie, virtual simulator parachutist. Is there a case study of somebody, let's kind of walk it through, that they joined the community as an disgruntled or disengaged employee with an idea, and they've had that burning, you talked about it right at the beginning, because I think this was me, the feeling of, I'm not in the right place because I've always thought I should be running a business. Have you got a good case study of somebody who's walked that path? And then now we could even point people to that and say, yeah, look at this for a case study. This is exactly what the outcome would look like for you if your obsession and your adventure and your love and all those things matched. What would that look like?
Well, a lot of people, they're either fed up with work and just want to opt out, or there's circumstances where maybe they got downsized or aged out, and then they're sort of like stuck, like, okay, what do I do? So one recent example is, and she's been amazing. So I have a course that has a very particular trajectory for people. So they come in one side, and there's lack of clarity and not sure, and then on the other side there's total clarity about who they are, and they have products, and they're out there creating connections. So she is coming out the other side right now. And this is what I can tell you about what's happened in that process of just getting clear about the story. What she's experiencing is relief, because this is so, particularly when it's almost like relationships, when relationships end, you don't want to bring the baggage from the last relationship into the new thing. And this is hard for a lot of my course participants and my community members, is the transition from what was to what could be. And it's very scary because it's a totally new thing. It's unfamiliar territory. But when you see someone, and I have these things called 100-word stories, and these, when you write your 100-word story, this becomes the most clarifying aspect of like, oh, this is what I'm here to do. This is why I'm put on the planet at this moment. So then they're able to drop the old story and go, as you say, all in, ALL, on this new path. But
Yeah.
up until that point, she had really no clue on, she knew like she needed a website and needed to make contacts with people, but she didn't know what to say.
Yeah.
And I think that's the hardest part, is like getting to that crystallization of what is it that I'm building here. And when you see what people, and it's such a simple thing, this 100-word story, but I've seen people in a good way emotionally break down when they read their own story, and they get misty-eyed and they say, oh my God, I didn't realize that this is what I'm all about. And it makes total sense. That's the other thing. We're not creating capitalist fiction. What we're doing is we're revealing the truth of who you always and already are.
It's so good. Yeah, I think you're saying so many things of value. I've kind of asked people to rewind that bit because that's probably the most valuable bit so far, was just kind of hearing a real life story. Because if I found you 6 years ago, there's no doubt in my mind this would have been the right place for me to go, because I didn't know who to ask. And that's you. I didn't know what to say to people, and that's you. And I didn't have a course or trajectory or something that was clear, a clear pathway. And I help people with career pathways now, but I did not have that. And so it was extremely frustrating, and I felt stuck. I felt trapped, that I didn't know where to go. And so now, for those of you watching, you know where to go. If you have an entrepreneurial spirit and you like learning, lifelong learning, and you want to go on an adventure and play the long game, then this is the right place for you. Now, you've told us a lot about you, but I'd love to ask you, what do other people say about you? So I don't know your family dynamic. So maybe it's somebody in the family or somebody who's a best friend. What if we take you off the screen and they come on screen? What are they going to tell us?
I love this question because it's uncomfortable, but I love it. So I want to play. Greg is a guy on your side. Greg is a guy who will do anything. He'll create the conditions for you to win, and whatever that is. So this could probably trace back to my soccer roots, as we talked about before. I was a great assist guy. I was the guy who would take the ball down the left side and cross it in, and someone else would take care of business. And that was good. That, to me, I was contributing to the success, but I wasn't the guy who was getting the glory. I actually love being in that position where I'm supporting and I'm helping to guide. And so I guess, a coach is a perfect profession for me. And I didn't realize this, James, until, I ran an agency and I was a copywriter at a large agency called Ogilvy for many years out of New York City. And, I think all of us go through these life transitions, and I wouldn't have considered myself a coach back when I was running my agency. But if I look back at it now, yeah, that would be true. There's no reason why I wouldn't be a brand or story coach back then, but I didn't see myself as that. So I guess, yeah, like the ultimate cheerleader.
Awesome. Supportive cheerleading. These are really good things for people to hear. I love how you dropped Ogilvy as Ogilvy, just an agency in New York. Yeah. Everybody, this is like a top 100 global agency. Ogilvy's big news.
Top 10, I would say.
That's a good, yeah, great credibility for where you've come from. And yeah, I think I felt that too, is that most of my career, most of it felt like coaching, mentoring, and supporting others. And I very rarely was the one touching the Play-Doh or getting the glory. The glory of the awards and all the other things went to other people. But I didn't mind it. I like being captain of a team and not being the best player. I like that. Yeah. I want people to be able to find you now. So we're going to give that to people at the end here. So where is the best place to reach you? And then I want you to give us the website for Relaunch U as well, so people can go there and check it out and join. Guys, if you go to that website, don't go there and check it out. Go there and join. Because if you got this far in this conversation, you probably know that you should do, or you must do. Yeah. So tell us this. Where can somebody catch you? And then what's the website so they can sign up?
So You can reach out to my email, greg@letsgomonaco.com. That's pretty simple.
Let's,
Greg at
yeah, that'll be down below. Don't worry.
letsgomonaco.com.
You've said it. We will put it in
Yeah.
the notes. Yep.
Yeah. And Relaunch U is join relaunchu.com, and it's relaunch and the letter U. So join relaunchu.com. Check it
That's
out
down
there.
below too. Yeah. The
Mhm.
key thing, not YOU, it is just relaunch U, the letter U. Yeah, that's key. So we
Yep.
got that down there too.
Mhm.
Well,
Mhm.
I think we got to do this again, or we kind of come back. You know, I've said this to every guest. Really, is we never get enough time to go through everything, but I think there's an introduction, and to make sure that people know where to go next for this topic, they've got everything they need, and they can contact you. And I think that's a great offer for people to do that. Is there anything you'd like to give away, like something? If they contact you, what would you give them? Because I think one of the biggest challenges for people is my time's valuable. I don't know, Greg. Why would I reach it? I watch this. Greg seems great, but my time's valuable. What is there something you could offer them just to entice them? Because there might be something blocking them from doing that book. But if you give them something, I love value. What have you got for them?
They can become if they reach out to me. I run these networking events every month, and I'll give them access to the quad for free. It's usually $25 for those who are not members. It's included with your Relaunch U membership, but I'd be happy to invite you to the next quad networking session.
Awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
I love that. There we go. Look, you get a free quad session. What you don't know who's in that room, and you might scare the life out of you that you got to go and meet some other people. But what if there was the one person that would change your life? I think that would be great. You know, remember where we started up here is talking about disengaged, maybe lacking clarity about what's next for you, who to ask. I think today Greg's answered that. So thank you very much, Greg. I've really enjoyed the conversation. I can't wait to have you back on the show, and I'll speak to you real soon.
All right. Thank you, James.
Hey, I love that conversation with Greg Monaco there. And I'd love for you to just stick around on my channel here and check out this next video. If you are the employee and you're looking for entrepreneurship and ideas around that, this is the video for you. So just go and check that video out right now, and I'll see you inside.